Welcome to the Springs Are Everywhere podcast, a production of SMI, the Spring Manufacturers Institute. I'm your host, Gary McCoy, Executive Director of SMI. In this edition, we'll talk with Paul Menig of Business Accelerants. He specializes in helping leaders develop long-term strategies to help accelerate profitable growth and generate revenue for their companies and themselves. In our second segment, we'll chat with Bill Coughlin from the Lippert Academy of Leadership. Bill specializes in helping companies on their leadership and culture journey. He'll explain how your business can be a force for good. Bill is a featured speaker at the 2024 SMI annual meeting. The Springs Are Everywhere podcast is brought to you in part by our platinum sponsor, Gibbs Interwire. Well, I want to welcome to the Springs Are Everywhere podcast, Paul Menig. Paul is the CEO of Business Accelerants. He's located in Portland, and Paul will be a familiar face to many in the spring industry for his work with SMI back in 2016. He produced a comprehensive report on his observations of the spring industry, not only where it is now, but where it's going in the future. And Paul, I just want to welcome you to the podcast.
Gary, thanks a lot for inviting me. It's great to be here and be able to talk to your membership again.
Well, Paul, you were kind enough to write an article for our next magazine. It's on exit strategies, and your article is called 7 Levers to Grow Your Business Value. And I'm just curious, why should owners of businesses be always ready to sell?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and it's not so much that they should be ready to sell is I'm thinking they should always be running an attractive, good business. And that gives them the flexibility to decide what they want to do, when they want to do it, and opens up a lot more opportunities for them to how they transition the business. So think of it as running a good business, an attractive business to a buyer rather than always being ready to sell kind of thing. Because I would expect a lot of people that are in their 60s or 70s or even 80s, I'm talking with a business owner, they may be quote unquote ready to sell, but that's not that their business is ready to sell. They're ready to get that H out, right?
Yeah. So what are some of the common pitfalls that could come up as people are thinking about exit strategies?
So I'm going to try to focus on things that I didn't put into the article, since people are going to have a chance to read that particular thing. So I've got some materials here in front of me that'll help remind me of that. And one of the things, it's kind of obvious, is strong margins. It has been common in a lot of manufacturing businesses that during those low inflation days from 2010 to 2019, people did nothing to improve the price of their product. And so large companies were pressuring them to reduce their prices, if anything. Their material costs were slowly going up at 1 or 2% a year, and their margins were going down. So a lot of people finally, when we hit the pandemic, realized, well, we got to change prices. People will accept a price change. And so that put their margins into a better place. I even saw a report within the last 2 days, I think it was Caterpillar, well, they forecast, they increased their revenues for 2023, but there was a little note there that said, based on price increases. So when you look at an attractive business, yeah, okay, your margins look strong, but if it became because of price increases, it's not as good. It's not as attractive a business if those margins were increased by reducing your costs, using lean manufacturing, improving quality, investing in new technology, and other things. So that's one of the things that is different than what I wrote about, that people can look at. Strong operating procedures. We talk a lot about in this kind of industry that we're losing people who are retiring who know an awful lot. And how are we going to replace that? Well, the standard operating procedures, how you document something, how you use pictures in your plant to show what is a good spring or a good metal part that's coming out versus a bad metal part, are all kinds of things that can go a long way. I don't know about you, but I search YouTube frequently to figure out how to do something, whether it's with the computer here or the plumbing or the TV or my adjustable bed. I'm looking for the procedure. And many times it's just a video that shows me how to do it. So businesses can be doing that same thing where they have a series of pictures, or they can use their iPhone to link to something that's within their infrastructure to be able to see how to do it. That helps the training. Record that from the older people. Add audio to it so that you can capture their knowledge and have it available for years to come.
So this
That's
is
another
kind
way.
of the tribal knowledge that all these companies have, getting that
Yeah,
into a place where it's accessible.
yes, absolutely.
So Paul, you advocate that you should know your customers and what they value. What does that involve?
Uh, I'm a strong believer that you need to know every customer, every stakeholder that you have in your business. So, having worked at a vehicle OEM, having worked at a tier one for a vehicle OEM, and then having worked with tier twos and threes along the way, it still comes down to what does the end user want? Do you understand what is driving them to buy your product, why your product is better? And it might be that it's got nothing to do with your product. It might be the salesman or the distributor or the stocking distributor who is the person. I've seen instances where if the salesman at the distributor changes to work for a competitor, guess what? The business leaves because it follows that very responsive, trustworthy salesperson that's going. So if you don't understand that entire value chain from the end customer all the way back to your shipping door, to your product design, you could lose out on what is really doing things. You might have opportunities to increase your margin because you're providing a better service than you really understand through that. Maybe you need to change a compensation plan with a stocking distributor versus a sales agent in order to get things. Maybe you need to provide more materials to a line salesman who's got multiple lines, and help them understand what is in your product offering that's going to make them happy and their customer happy. So that's where I talk about that. And then it goes the other side as well, with understanding your suppliers, understanding if you are a public company, who your shareholders are. If you're a private company, it could be a private equity person. What are they interested in? If it's a family-owned business, we all know that family members often think differently about what should be done.
Yeah, and Paul, I know that you frequently sit on boards of businesses to kind of be a third party outside voice. What do you look at that maybe is different than what the folks on the inside see?
So when I say an attractive business, it has to be growing. I believe that growth is required of every business. And many times people get into a privately held business and they reach a point in their life where they're happy with what they're doing, they're comfortable, and they lose that urge to grow. And that means your business is not going to be as attractive. I frequently will be looking to see, okay, you're growing. Let's say you're growing at 2% a year. Okay, that sounds okay, except inflation, GDP was growing at 2% of a year for a decade. That means you weren't making any progress. You were just a boat floating up with the tide. That is not growth that's going to make your company attractive at any point in time. So you need to be growing faster than GDP. And that can be tough in the automotive and truck segments that I'm very familiar with. We actually grow without acquisitions at less than GDP because we're always improving our processes and decreasing our costs. So while it may be typical for the market to be growing at 2%, you're growing at 1.5% because you're constantly getting better, lowering your costs, being able to produce faster. So you've got to come up with new products that go into new areas, new services. So if you look at automotive and truck companies, they make their money on aftermarket parts and they make their money on financing. They're making their money on subscriptions as we go forward. So that's the kind of growth that you need to have, is something that's new and puts you outside the norm of all of your competitors.
So, Paul, one last topic I wanted to mention is the idea of a peer advisory council, and you are a big advocate of that. What are some of the advantages of being part of a council like that?
So, the Spring Manufacturers Institute is an example of a large peer group. You have some great benchmarking materials that you put together to help people understand. You get together on a regular basis, but it's annually or maybe a quarterly type of thing. A peer advisory council, excuse me, is a group of CEOs that become a high functioning team that work together monthly to solve both tactical problems and strategic problems. Now, the ones that I'm doing are virtual, so you don't have time traveling. Virtual, if you do it right, you can see my hands. If I were sitting in a conference room, what more of me could you see? You're not going to see my legs or anything. You can see my face. You can see what I'm doing. And in a Zoom meeting, you can see everybody. If you look around, quote unquote, the Zoom grid, it's just like looking around a Zoom to see how people are reacting. Are they paying attention? So this highly functioning group of CEOs could be 6, 8, 12 people, meet regularly, and they could be solving a problem. I've got a problem with this machine. I don't know what to do with it. I've got a problem with an employee. He's great performing, but he's disruptive. He's not meeting diversity, equity, and inclusion kinds of things. He's likely to get me into a lawsuit along the way. Or I need a new salesperson. How should I set up the compensation plan for that person? And I can guarantee you that of the 8, 10, 12 people that are in that room, somebody will have faced that problem and have a war story to tell, will have a success story to tell that will be able to help you with that. Then if they're really a high functioning team, they will reach out to each other between meetings as well to get advice. And I know some of your members already do some of that when they're faced with some big issues associated with it. So I look at it as a cheap way, if you will, of having a non-fiduciary board of advisors for a small monthly fee compared to an annual fee that's quite large for a fiduciary independent board director for a small private company versus the multiple directors you have on a public company. It's a great way to get some outside advice to how to make your company attractive so that you have the opportunity to choose how you move that business forward.
Well, Paul, I think I've known you about 10 years now, and
Yeah.
you always have great insights, very valuable. How do people get in touch with you?
So I am very fortunate that there are only 2 Paul Menigs in the world, and the other one doesn't have much of a presence on the internet. So if you type in Paul Menig, you'll get me. You can go to paulmenig.com, one word. You can go to businessaccelerants.com. And on my website, there's a link to schedule time to talk with me. And your members might be interested at the top. There's a black banner that says Fuel Your Growth. They can get an idea of how their business compares to some other businesses and what a buyer would look at it in just 25 areas of due diligence. Due diligence can be, I've had lists of 150 items that somebody might look at to look at your business.
Well, Paul, thanks again for joining us today, and have a great day.
All right. Thanks, Gary.
As a longtime supporter of SMI's mission to inform the spring industry, Gibbs Interwire is proud to be the platinum sponsor for the new Springs Are Everywhere podcast. For over 6 decades, Gibbs Interwire has provided high-quality spring wire and strip products in carbon, nickel, red metals, and stainless steel alloys, along with specialty items such as shaped wire, strand, cable, brush, and staple wire. With many locations throughout North America, our experienced team is available where and when you need us. Gibbs Interwire offers exceptional value to our customers by providing a vast inventory from the best suppliers worldwide. Gibbs Interwire is a partner of Algaloy Specialty Metals and a combined metals company. For your quote today, call Gibbs Interwire at 800-800-4422 or visit us at gibbswire.com.
So I want to welcome Bill Coughlin to the Springs Are Everywhere podcast. Bill is a member of the corporate leadership development team for Lippert Components in Elkhart, Indiana. And Bill, thanks for joining us today.
Gary, it is my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, Bill, I had the chance to hear you speak at an industry event last year, and you were kind enough to host me and SMI President Gene Huber at your headquarters down in Elkhart. And we got to see up front and hear firsthand about Lippert's cultural journey. So I'm going to back up, and can you just kind of explain what happened more than a decade ago that really transformed the culture there at Lippert?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. A matter of fact, I joined Lippert 10 years ago. It'll be 10 years ago this month. And when I came into the organization, it was actually to look at the culture that we had here at Lippert. Lippert has been around since 1956. A very successful company, made money every year. Unfortunately, 10 years ago, they were more of a command and control type organization. We had a turnover rate inside our 4 walls of 131%. So it wasn't sustainable, right? I mean, you're running out of people to have come into your organization.
Sure.
And so what we did is we started to take a look and see what was our vision. What's the mission of the organization? What kind of a value system? How are we going to hold people accountable? Those were some of the things we started to put into place so that if we were on a mission, hopefully if we presented it the right way and worked with our team members, they would join us on that mission. If we had some core values, I was a believer if we had core values, how we would hold each other accountable when we were at work, then people wouldn't be walking out, and going down the street for 50 cents to $1 an hour. And we really had to look at how we were taking care of our people. I believe you can have great facilities, you can have great equipment, you can have great processes, but if you don't focus on your team members, you are going to miss the mark every day. And so that's what we started to do, is some listening sessions to hear what did our people like, what frustrated them, what would they like to see us do in the future. And then we started to do some of those things. So we focused on cleaning up our facilities, making sure that people felt valued and appreciated. Restrooms were a big thing. Lunchrooms were a big thing. Even parking lots. We had parking lots that had potholes everywhere. And so if you were coming in at 5 o'clock in the morning to start your shift, you got out of your car and stepped in a mud puddle, your boot was full of mud for the rest of the day. Didn't motivate you and inspire you to come in and probably do your best work. So I could go on for hours on the journey we've been on over the last 10 years. We've made great strides. Our turnover rate now is down in the mid-20s, which our plan is probably never to get to zero because sometimes you just don't have the right fit of people. So you're always going to have some sort of turnover, right? Hopefully we hire them to retire, right, when they're done with their career. So it's a journey. We're still on it, and we'll probably always be on it. I believe the journey of our culture will never end. So,
well, Bill, I'm excited. You're going to be joining us for our SMI annual meeting coming up in April. And you're really, I think the message is business as a force for good. What's that all about?
Well, we believe this, that if you do the right thing, if you build the right culture inside your four walls at work, people will not wake up in the morning saying, I have to go to work. Hopefully the mindset is, I get to go to work. I enjoy it. I feel valued. I feel appreciated, welcomed, cared for. We believe if we do it the right way, most of our team members will go home happier and healthier, and they will treat their families in a different way. They will be better stewards in their communities, right? And so when we talk about being a force for good in the world, yeah, we want to build an environment where people feel good about themselves at work so they feel great about themselves going home. I also believe this. What we want to do is share our message. We don't believe that we've fixed everything. We have, like I mentioned, we have a long way to go still. But what we do is we like to share, hey, these are some things that we've done to try and fix our culture, change our culture. And we like to share them with other organizations that are like-minded, that also believe we have the ability to impact people's lives up to 40, sometimes 50 hours a week. So if we do a great job with that, right, hopefully other people will see that and say, hey, how are you doing it? And we want to help go on the same type journey. So that's what we mean when we talk about being a force for good in the world.
So I remember from your materials, Bill, you talk about company leadership and cultural journey, kind of using the example of the Chinese bamboo tree.
Yes, we
Tell
do.
me about that, because a lot of people are probably like, what does bamboo have to do with culture?
So, it's an old Chinese story that talks about building a forest of bamboo trees. So here's what they tell you. When you go out and plant your seed, a bamboo seed, into the soil, you will need to go out there every day and till the soil and water the seed. And you will do that for days and nothing will happen. You'll do it for a year and nothing happens. So you'll believe that master that told you to till the soil and go out there might be something wrong with him. The second year, you'll till and water that soil. Third year, fourth year, up to 5 years, you will have to continue to go out and you will see nothing. But at the end of 5 years, you will see a sprout come out, and within 6 weeks, a bamboo will grow up to 90 feet. 90 feet tall in 6 weeks. And so the question is this: what happened in the first 5 years that you were going out, tilling that soil and watering that plant? What was happening is that the root structure was growing underneath, right, the ground, so that when the tree took off, it could actually grow that 90 feet and be supported. And so we use that analogy with our culture journey. At the beginning, it doesn't happen overnight. You don't just come in, talk about a culture, talk about having values and leadership qualities and a mission statement, and all of a sudden things turn around overnight. We focused on early adapters that wanted to buy into our message, that wanted to come along on this journey. We had plenty of people for years that were sitting on the fence. Many people that said, when are we going to get back to being the same old Lippert? When are we going to get back to just running the business? Some people believe when you're driving a culture, it's all fluff. Gary, I would tell you it's the hard work, it's heavy lifting, it's planting those seeds, it's tilling that soil so that over time, people will start to buy in and say, hang on, it is real. I can see it. I can feel it. You can almost taste it. So I think you and I could agree there's certain organizations you have gone into or I have gone into that give us energy. You feel it when you walk through the door. There's certain people in our lives that give us that energy. Conversely, there's places we go into where we say, wow, they suck the life out of me. Or, oh, I have to go back and meet this person or see this facility. So that's the analogy of the bamboo, is that it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort. You can't give up on that journey. If they would have stopped after 3 years of tilling that soil and watering that bamboo, guess what? It never would have taken off. The root structure would have died underneath. So that's why we use that analogy, is that it doesn't happen. Just stay the course. Never give up.
Bill, I know when Gene and I visited your plants, we saw on the board, people had goals both personally and professionally. Tell me a little bit about how you coach that with your folks.
Yeah, Gary, those are called leadership action plans that we have internal. And so the concept behind that is we know that all of us have, when we're young, we all have dreams, right? We have dreams. If someone says, what are you going to be when you grow up? I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a fireman. I'm going to be a police. Children dream constantly. But as we get older, we stop dreaming. The concept behind a leadership action plan is, what are 3 things that you'd like to do in your personal life? You can call them dreams or you can call them goals. But some people want to stop smoking. Maybe they want to get in shape. Maybe they want to become debt-free. Maybe they want to, spend more time and take a family vacation. So we ask them to share some of their goals and dreams that they want to accomplish. When we flip the card over, we talk about 3 things you want to do professionally. What's one area you want to grow yourself in your business life? What's one area that you would want to focus on to grow your team here within the organization? And then the last one is one thing you want to do to help grow your piece of the business, whatever that might be in our organization. So we set those goals and then we share those things with others. And what you find is when you know the goals of others on your team, you will come alongside and help them attain those goals, help them reach it. So it's been amazing to see some of the transformation of people, both personally and professionally, in their professional career and in their personal life with their families. We've had so many team members on the personal side lose weight, quit smoking, have their first child go to college, take a vacation with the family that they've never thought that they could do, right? On the business side, we've seen team members elevate, right, all over through the organization. And it's been so fun. Some of them, until they wrote those goals down, 1, they didn't challenge themselves, and 2, we had no idea that's where they wanted to get in their career. So that's been a very, very powerful tool for us. We started with the leadership team in the organization, and now in 2024, our goal is to have every team member do a leadership action plan. So, and it's really to sort of come alongside and celebrate the successes. So it's a powerful tool. I'll tell you that.
Well, Bill, what I appreciate about your company is you're willing to share this with other people. And tell me a little bit about your Academy of Leadership and how you make that available to other business leaders.
Yeah, let me do this, Gary. Let me tie it into something that I think that truly had a magnificent impact on our organization. Our organization to this day does 100,000 hours of community service every year. So 100,000 hours, and we share some of the things we do. You and I will have one relationship Monday through Friday when we work inside our 4 walls together. But if you and I go out and serve the community, whether it's at a homeless shelter, a food pantry, or we clean up a ballpark, we have a whole different relationship when we come back in that following Monday. When you're out serving others in the community, it's not about a title. It's about just getting together, and we find out things about ourselves personally and professionally when we're out there. I was not a big fan that we used to promote that on social media, but I learned the more we shared that on social media, the more other organizations said, hey, listen, we can't do 100,000 hours, but we can do 5,000 hours with you, or we'll partner with you for 10,000 hours. And so what we found is that other organizations, they loved what we were doing. And then they started asking the questions, how did you do this? Why are you doing it? And so that drove us to the Lippert Academy to say, hey, we've got some cool things going here. And if we truly want to be a force for good in the world, then why keep it inside our 4 walls? Why not share it with other organizations? So we have a cultural playbook that we use, and we share it with other organizations to say, we will come alongside and help you on the journey. You don't have to do it the Lippert way. You don't have to do it, but we will share with you some of the roadblocks we hit and how we got over those roadblocks, right? We're going to tell you what we think went well and some of the things we tried that maybe didn't go so well. But it's really to plant the seed and to help someone else so they don't have to hit some of the same roadblocks we did. So our goal is to say, let's not keep it with us. Let's share it with others. And hopefully the more organizations that do it, all of us, business can be a force for good in the world. So that's our mission.
And Bill, I think just the fact that you say, come on down and see what we're doing, that's just a huge commitment and a very awesome thing that your company does.
Yeah, I would tell you this, Gary. I can sell you a bill of goods, right? And talk's cheap. But when I let you come in behind the curtain and go talk to all of our team members, and you can talk to anyone, I mean, you experienced it. We let you talk to anyone. We want our team members. That's our greatest thing to celebrate, is for them to say, no, I'm telling you, 15 years ago, it was a horrific place to be. And today, I couldn't be more proud of the organization that I work within. So, yeah, it's fun. It's fun to bring other organizations in and then just try and help each other out. We also learn every time we have an organization come in. We learn from them of things that they're doing. So you mentioned Gene Huber. I was just down in Gene's facility just a week ago. So Gene invited me in. So I got to be with him and his brother Chad and see their family and their teams and go through their 4 facilities. And it's wonderful, the ideas that I came out with that I could even bring back to Lippert based on what I saw. So if we're open, we can all learn from each other. So.
Well, Bill, thanks for joining me today. It's been a privilege to hear some of the stuff I already knew, but to share it with our audience, I think that is just a tremendous opportunity. How can people reach out to you?
Well, you can find me at B Coughlin, Coughlin at LCI1.com. That's my email address. And if you'll send me an email, I will definitely get back to them. Otherwise, you can check out our organization. Our corporate website is LCI1.com. And we can get you more information on the academy, and we'd love to partner up and see where we can help people out. So, and Gary, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to meet up with you, and I am definitely looking forward to being out at your the SMI annual meeting in April. So that'll be a great time to get together and meet some of the others right in your organization. So,
well, thanks again, Bill. Have a great day.
All right, you too.
In addition to Gibbs Interwire, the Springs Are Everywhere podcast has been made possible by the generous support of our silver sponsor, Automated Industrial Motion. You can learn more at aimcoil.com.
Thanks for joining us for the Springs Are Everywhere podcast. You can learn more about SMI at smihq.org. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and like us on YouTube and on your favorite podcast platform. You can read more about our 2 guests, Paul Menig and Bill Coughlin, in the spring 2024 issue of Springs Magazine. Once again, I want to thank our platinum sponsor, Gibbs Interwire, and our silver sponsor, Automated Industrial Motion, for making this program possible.
Have you ever wondered what keeps your refrigerator doors from popping open and your food from spoiling? It's springs! Extension springs are used on the door hinges to make sure your refrigerator doors close and stay closed. Remember, springs are everywhere, and maybe even closer than you thought.